Hey. So before this video begins, I want to say something about my last video. When I talked about the death of my former professor and my dog in my last video, I kind of just expected that to be taken as a life is short, make sure to live it kind of lesson. But the number of condolences I've gotten from complete strangers online, it's really kind of blown me away. Like, many of y'all came through for me with your condolences more than people I've known for years, and I just want to say thank you. Like, really, I'm just really grateful and overblown by it. You know, the internet can be a really scary place when it comes to trying to be vulnerable, but it is really nice to know that there's a community of people that can just make the internet a bit nicer. So thanks for that. Hey friendles, I'm Kendall, and I'm gonna make a Kinger action figure in a software that was infamous among my art school classmates. Okay, before we get started, I'm gonna have to give you a rundown on this software. Rhino 3D is a CAD software, meaning computer-aided design, and it's a software used in the product design industry, automotive design, engineering, etc. And instead of using polygons, it uses NURBS. Now, what exactly are NURBS? While you can technically use ZBrush to do all that stuff, the way that you make things in Rhino is, it's different. You'll see exactly what I mean very soon. The first thing I did was make a reference image of Kinger, and this probably looks like a bunch of gobbledygook with all its colors. But the different colors played a part in how I was going to approach modeling Kinger. Also, I think the presence of arms in this drawing implies that I'm going to be giving Kinger arms made of clear resin. After importing my image into Rhino, I started the modeling process. And oh boy, this is going to take some explaining. So, unlike ZBrush, where you essentially carve digital clay with a stylus, with Rhino you make the basis of these solid objects with vector lines. Like, imagine trying to 3D model with Adobe Illustrator. Yeah, that sounds strange, right? But I'm going to make it make sense, don't worry. To start off, I added a vector line that marks the middle of Kinger's body, and then I used some other vector lines to basically trace one side of his silhouette. I make sure the vector lines I'm creating touch the vector line that acts as the middle marker, and now here's where the magic happens. To make a 3D form, I use a function called revolve, click my silhouette vector curve and my middle marking vector curve, and then I do exactly as the function implies, making a uniform cylindrical solid that looks just like Kinger. Since revolve curves are what's going to compose most of Kinger's body, I just have to do that a bunch more times over. The majority of Kinger is pretty symmetrical, except for the eyes and the cross. The cross is pretty simple. I just use some vector lines to make the shape of the cross and use the extrude function to make it a formed shape. Making the eyes is as simple as placing a sphere and scaling it. When putting in a primitive object, it will default to the z-axis, so the eyes just need to be shifted in place. And just my luck, I shifted Kinger's eyes onto his backside thinking it was the front, so for a while I was trying to pinpoint why he looked off until I realized my mistake. No worries, just gotta scooch him over a little bit. Making natural forms is the thing a lot of my classmates, including myself, struggled with in Rhino 3D. But making the arms is actually quite simple. I added a primitive cylinder, extruded it to the length that I needed, and then I used a function called cage edit that allowed me to push and pull the parts of the cylinder with control points to get something vaguely arm-shaped. I import a sphere for the shoulder, and then I just kind of sat there mentally planning out how I was going to do all the necessary functions to give this joint its range of motion. But once I figured it out, I prepared something I knew I would need very soon from a spare sphere. Before jointing the arms, I Boolean union the shoulder ball and the arm together into one piece. To get rid of the seam line so that the arm doesn't crack once it's printed, I used an infamous function called fillet. While filleting can make your models look sleek and professional, it's been known to make Rhino students want to pull their hair out when it doesn't f***ing work. I need to censor that. But seriously, I think the stars aligned for me when I was making this project, so it worked fine this time. To make the internal slit of the shoulder, I used this midsection thingy that I cut from the spare sphere I mentioned earlier. I scaled it up a smidge-meter and then used that to cut a hole in the arm's shoulder. I also saved a copy of this cutout midsection thingy so that I can make a shoulder joint. Since I was having good luck with fillets, I decided to try filleting the sharp edges, and it worked out again. But maybe I shouldn't be pushing my luck. As mentioned earlier, I made multiple copies of the shoulder sphere because I knew I was going to need them. I scaled up a spare sphere that'll be used to make the shoulder hole. And as for the joint itself, I used another copy of the midsection thingy and connected it to a cylinder and a sphere. It'll also allow me to pop the arms in and out of the body. I initially thought I was going to make the hand in ZBrush because making natural forms in Rhino was a very detested task for me and my classmates during the art school years. Seriously, I could go off about how Rhino was taught and how to better ease students into making natural forms in a CAD software by starting out with an engineering type of project. But anyways, I actually made the hand using the sub-D function in Rhino. I hadn't really had a good grasp on sub-D until I saw this tutorial on making a rubber hose style hand in Rhino. Funny enough, this video was actually made by one of my former professors. Hey Dave. Starting with a basic rectangular sub-D thingy, I clicked on squares and started extruding fingies. After doing this for a while, it actually started to remind me of polygon modeling in softwares like Blender and Maya. Despite being low poly, trying to position and rotate edges and faces was honestly getting kind of annoying. But despite all that, we eventually got to this. And it's actually looking pretty good. Dave's video did go over how to make the glove cuff in sub-D, but I thought making it out of a cylinder would probably look better. Sorry, Dave. I made a short cylinder, filleted the edges, and then I put that in place. I added a sphere, rotated the arm part so that they're upright, and then joined the hand, wrist cuff, and ball together because I was going to have to joint the hand in the same vein as the shoulder. To joint the elbow, I'm going to need to make the actual joint as well as a similar shape that'll make a slit in the arm. To make the joint, I just take two circle vectors, connect them together with a curved vector and a straight vector to make them one piece. It technically isn't one piece just yet. I wouldn't want to extrude this. So using the trim function, I use the curved and straight vector to cut away some parts of the circles. I also added teeny circles as markers for the wire hole booleans later. I join the curves together and then I use the extrude function to make the joint itself. Making a copy of the elbow curve, I modified it so it properly makes a hole in the arm. I also made it a smidge-meter bigger before extruding it. Using that piece, I booleaned a hole in the arm and then used the trim function with a rectangle vector to separate the arm into two pieces. See all those purple lines and shapes? I was essentially using those as booleans to cut and make proper holes and channels in all the body parts. In this case, I was doing it to the arms, but I also used the same shapes for different parts of the body. It was at this point when I finally jointed the wrist in the same way as I did for the shoulder, Why did I do it now? I don't know. I made sure to boolean a slot in the hinge joints that are meant to go in and out of a socket. When printed in filament, it lets these pieces be a bit more flexible. From there, I just used all the other purple pieces to boolean the important slits and holes in the rest of Kinger. Now that we're in the home stretch, I made sure everything that needs to be one piece is properly unionized while also adding some details. One of which being the hand beans that I seem to always forget about. And I also booleaned a lowercase I shape into some of his parts. This is mainly to help me identify what direction the arm should be facing during assembly. The I basically stands for internal, so even after mirroring the copies in my print software, these pieces should be facing inward. Doing the final look through, I clicked every piece and found that 2 of them had open edges, which is bad. Oftentimes you can join open edges and close the object, but the openings were literally one unclickable pink dot among a sea of gray wires, so I just opted to make those pieces again off camera. Thankfully, I had a copy of the original curves and booleans that I used to make them, so it was a very quick and easy fix. The arms and hands will be printed in clear resin, but since resin can be kinda heavy, I made sure to hollow out the pieces in my print software. I also added holes for the resin to come out of later, because if you're not gonna add a release for the resin to come out of, you might as well just print them solid. I mirrored the pieces, added supports, and sliced the file, which should only take about 2 hours to print. So now I just gotta set up the printer. Outside. And pray it doesn't get stolen or damaged. Setting up the other parts for filament was more straightforward. Some neatly arranging, slicing with supports, and contemplating my existence once I see that printing this is gonna take 18 hours. Looks like I better get on that. You'd think that I would have started that already as of writing the script, but never mind. Just be sure to come back for part 2 where I paint and assemble him and make his robe and stuff. If you'd like to see more from me, please check out my social media links in the description. I'm always drawing stuff, so you can check that out if you want to engage with me a bit more. I hope you're all doing well, and if no one told you today, the world wouldn't be the same without you. Know that you're valued and you make my world a better place every day. As of writing the script, no new holidays have passed since my last video, but other than that, shalom everyone.
Oh, puppy. Puppy. Oh, puppy. Is that a puppy?